Social media can turn a single tap of a finger into an international incident. Today we are exploring how one accidental Instagram like revealed the fascinating psychology behind our collective online behavior.
You know what's incredible about this story? How quickly it escalated from a simple notification, liked by Virat Kohli, into this massive wave of speculation and theories.
Well, let's break down what actually happened, because the contrast between reality and reaction is pretty mind-blowing. Cricket legend Virat Kohli's account liked a photo on an actress's fan page, that's it. But within hours, social media turned it into this elaborate conspiracy theory.
And this is where the psychology gets really interesting. Studies show that our brains process social media interactions in the same regions that handle real-world social relationships, which explains why people react so intensely to these digital signals.
That's exactly why this case is so fascinating. Psychologists call it pattern completion bias. Our brains are literally hardwired to fill in missing information with the most exciting possible explanation, not necessarily the most logical one.
So if we look at the data on viral misinformation, a dramatic theory typically spreads 6 times faster than its correction. How does that play into what happened here?
Well, that statistic perfectly explains why the speculation about Kohli's spread like wildfire, while his simple explanation that it was just an algorithm glitch while clearing his feed barely made a ripple in comparison.
You know what's particularly fascinating? Research shows that about 65% of accidental likes on social media happen during what's called mindless scrolling, when people are just passively consuming content.
Right? And yet our brains immediately jump to these complex narratives. Social media platforms actually amplify this tendency through their design. Studies show that controversial or dramatic content gets up to 8 times more engagement than neutral explanations.
That reminds me of a recent study from the Oxford Internet Institute that found people are 3 times more likely to share content that triggers an emotional response, regardless of its accuracy.
You know, this whole incident really demonstrates what psychologists call the availability cascade, where a simple piece of information becomes more believable simply because it's being repeated so often. The more people talked about potential hidden meanings behind the like, the more plausible those theories seemed.
Let's explore how this affects public figures. Research indicates that celebrities experience an average of 12 times more scrutiny for routine social media activities compared to regular users.
Well, that's where digital literacy becomes crucial. Studies show that people who take just a 30-second pause before sharing content are 40% less likely to spread misinformation. But in today's fast-paced social media environment, how many actually take that pause?
The psychology of viral moments like this reveals something deeper about human nature, doesn't it? Our need to create narratives and find patterns even where none exist.
Exactly. And neuroscience backs this up. fMRI studies show that our brains release more dopamine when we encounter dramatic explanations compared to mundane ones. We are literally getting a chemical reward for jumping to exciting conclusions.
That makes me think about how social media platforms could be redesigned to encourage more thoughtful interactions. Some platforms are experimenting with friction points that create natural pauses before sharing.
You know what's interesting? Research shows that implementing just a 5-second delay before allowing users to share content can reduce the spread of misinformation by up to 25%. Imagine if that had been in place when this Kohli incident happened.
Well, that brings up an important point about digital wellness. How do we maintain healthy skepticism while staying engaged online?
Recent studies suggest that people who actively practice what researchers call digital mindfulness, taking time to verify information and question their initial reactions, report 45% less social media anxiety and make better informed decisions online.
The implications for society are pretty significant when you think about how these psychological tendencies shape our collective behavior online.
Looking at the broader picture, this incident perfectly illustrates how social media has fundamentally changed the way information spreads. A single action can reach millions within hours, but the truth often travels at a much slower pace.
That's such an important observation about the asymmetry between how quickly misinformation spreads versus how long it takes to correct it.
Well, as we wrap up, let's leave our listeners with some practical takeaways. Research shows that people who regularly ask themselves what's the simplest explanation before reacting to social media content report significantly better digital well-being scores.
And remember that sometimes the most interesting story isn't the drama we imagine, but what our reaction to that drama reveals about human psychology.
Until next time, keep thinking critically and remember, in a world of instant reactions, taking a moment to pause might be the most powerful thing you can do.